Lee is with us in Omaha, Nebraska. Hi, Lee. How are you?
I'm doing well, Dave. How about you?
Better than I deserve. What's up?
Well, I wanted to give you a little quick history. I talked to you about 5 years ago after reading The Money Makeover, and at that time I was 3 years away from retirement. I called and told you that I had paid off everything but my house, and I wanted to get an annuity in my IRA to make my house payment. And you advised me against that and told me to take a withdrawal and pay off the house. Well, against the advice of my friends, I did that. So I've been debt-free for the last 5 years, and it's a pretty darn good feeling. So I appreciate the advice. But what's happening now is these same friends are telling me I need an inflation hedge and that I should withdraw money from my IRA and put money down on a couple of rental properties so that they increase in value over the next few years. But my problem is I have quite a bit of my IRA in tips, staggered, so they come due at different times, and I bonds. So I'm making 8-9% now. I'm only withdrawing 3%. So my wife tells me, why in the world would you want to be a landlord and have leaky toilets and calls in the middle of the night and all that? So my question to you, Dave, is do I listen to my friends or do I listen to my wife?
Well, that's a no-brainer. Then we could talk about the advice, too. But, I mean,
Okay.
Proverbs says, who can find a virtuous wife, for her worth is far above rubies. The heart of her husband safely trusts her, and he will have no lack of gain. If your wife isn't a nag and she is a wise, virtuous woman, her worth, her wisdom will cause you to have no lack of gain, as opposed to stupid friends. And there's lots of people have stupid friends. I've got a few stupid friends. So
you're not sitting next to one, though.
No, George is not stupid. George is a lot of things, but stupid is not on the list.
But I agree. I think you can ignore your friend's advice on this one, and not because your wife is right and they're wrong, but because it's not a wise move for everyone.
Now, let's talk about it for a second, okay? What is a hedge against inflation? A hedge is literally like you think of a row of bushes.
Right.
And tightly woven together so that the neighbor's dog can't get through, right? I mean, it's a blocker. Mm-hmm. A hedge is a blocker, a wall to keep inflation from getting in. All inflation hedges are investments that invest in things that inflate with inflations. So real estate is a hedge against inflation. Investing in companies whose stock goes up and price goes up if the inflation rate goes up would be a hedge against inflation. Energy company as an example. What happens? What's a component of inflation? Gas price at the pump, right?
Right.
And so if you buy an energy company, you have a hedge against inflation because they are inflation. And so you own a piece of inflation, thus it's a hedge. Real estate is inflation. The rising of real estate prices is a component of inflation. So that's a hedge against inflation. Tips aren't. Savings accounts aren't. So if you wanted to have a hedge against inflation, yes, real estate would be a play, and a good one. Yes, moving some of your money into some mutual funds that are investing in stocks of companies that are gaining due to inflation. So you are riding the wave of inflation rather than being crushed by it. That is the definition of a hedge. That's the essence of it. And so,
but aren't tips tied to inflation? So
well, they could be. Depends on what's in it.
Well, I mean, I own tips within my IRA, but they were purchased as bonds, so it's not a tips fund. It's an individual
bonds are
bond.
not. Bonds are not, because bonds are just a debt instrument. They've got a fixed interest rate attached to them. And that is not a component.
Maybe I'm using the wrong term. It's a Treasury-inflated protected security,
right?
Is what it's called, a tip. So maybe it's a note, or maybe bond is the wrong word.
Well, it is a note, but it has a fixed coupon rate. That's why it's not a component of inflation. See, if you think of, lumber went up 3x during COVID, right? Went from $600 per 100 board, 600 per board foot or whatever, up to about $1,500. And so that is a component of inflation. And so if you owned a stock in a lumber company, if you were participating in 84 Lumber, I don't even know if it's publicly traded, but if it was and you owned in that, then you would be having a hedge against inflation. If you own a note that 84 Lumber Company has promised to pay 8% on, it doesn't change with inflation. But the price of lumber changes and that company makes more money.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to be participating as an owner, not a lender.
I see.
And that's what moves. So if you're concerned about that, I would move some of my portfolio, and I probably would anyway, into some good mutual funds. Now, if you want to buy some real estate and you want to pay cash for it and buy real estate that doesn't require a lot of leaky toilets and midnight calls, I mean, you could buy a little small piece of commercial, a little office building, a little apartment or something, have somebody else manage it. That'd be okay. What's the size of your net worth?
Well, total with house, IRA, everything, probably 800,000, 850.
Way to go. Congratulations.
How old are you?
Thank you. Well, I'll be 68 shortly.
After hearing you talk, I'm probably going to sit exactly where you are. I'm with your wife.
Okay, she's going to be glad to hear that.
Yeah. Because you like predictability and precision.
Well, I do. I don't like a lot of risk in my investments, and with the passive income I have and the money I have in the IRA, I'm doing okay.
Yeah.
So I just don't know that it's worth the risk.
Not knowing what's going to be in the mailbox when you open it is not your play.
Right. And it is for some people. It's not for me.
Well, I mean, I own rental property, and I don't know if they're going to pay every month.
Sure.
But these tips are paying. That's a coupon. It's just going to show up in the dadgum mailbox or the electronic mailbox, whatever. I mean, your money's coming. It's mailbox money. You can count on it. So I think your life is good, and I don't think I'd screw with it because of the way you tick.
If there was a few million here, we might say, all right, it's paying cash for some real estate.
That's what I was looking for.
But 800,000, I don't think it's worth taking a huge chunk of that out to buy real estate.
If you're sitting on $2 million in that, I'd pull 500 out and move it towards some kind of a commercial real estate play.
And you love real estate, but real estate is not for everyone, and you don't need it to build wealth and keep wealth.
No.
People can do that with their mutual funds, with their 401ks and IRAs.
Do it with a lot of things, but you just need to do it with something that fits your profile, and he's got a very clear profile. And part of his profile is his friends are not trustworthy.
Time to find new friends. At 68, I don't know. You've had these friends for so long.
Yeah.
Just keep
we're all sitting on the front porch whittling with an opinion about economics. But yeah. Yeah.
That's what friends are for.
That's what wives are for, too, and husbands are for. It's good stuff.
We need them all.
Very good stuff. One of the keys to my wealth building has been slowing down enough to make sure my wife speaks into it.
Sharon is the best investment Dave ever made. You heard it here first.
You did. It is absolutely 40 years now. This is The Ramsey Show.